Mötley Crüe has had a great run. I'm touring until I cannot move anymore.
At the age of 73, Mick shocked everyone by telling the world some serious things about Mötley Crüe. He said they cut him out of getting his fair share of money and did lots of sneaky things to take away his control of the band. But those things he said were just the start of a much bigger and more complicated story. What's really happening? Let's look closer at what went wrong between Mick and Mötley Crüe. Mick was born in 1951 in Toyote, Indiana. His real name is Robert Allen. He grew up in a family that didn't have much money and started playing music when he was a teenager. Before he became famous for glam metal, Mars spent almost 20 years playing in small California bands nobody knew about. He kept failing and switching bands. All those years of rejection made him tough and gave him that rough style that made him famous when he helped start Mötley Crüe in 1981. From the beginning, Mick was super important in shaping the band's sound. While the other guys in the band were known for acting wild and living crazy lives, Mars stayed focused on making good music and playing guitar really well. He even came up with the name Mötley Crüe after hearing someone say they looked like a motley-looking crew. That idea not only helped shape the band's brand, but showed what kind of person he was. The biggest difference between Mick and the rest of Mötley Crüe was how hard he worked. While the others followed whatever was trendy in metal, Mars stuck to old-school blues rock, crafting the heavy, deep guitar sounds you hear in Kickstart My Heart, Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood. People who worked with him in studios said he was always the first to show up and the last to leave, carrying a notebook with technical notes on every solo. Mars worked even harder considering his bone disease. At 17, doctors diagnosed him with ankylosing spondylitis, a rare, painful condition that causes his spine to fuse. In 2004, he had spinal surgery and had metal rods inserted to help him stand, enduring pain every day just to play music. Yet he never let it stop him. For over 40 years, he was involved in every studio album, tour, and major event. Industry professionals say most of the guitar parts on the records were played entirely by Mars himself. No tricks or help. Sound engineers from Elektra Records said he always had his guitar with him, even during interviews or backstage. Unlike his bandmates, Mars wasn't tied up in scandals with drugs, fights, or legal troubles during Mötley Crüe's most successful years. He kept quiet, staying out of the spotlight, but was the band's steady musical core. Rock sites like Blabbermouth and Metal Sludge show in polls that Mars is the most respected member, known for consistency and refusing to chase trends. What he achieved alone is enough to make him a legend. Over 100 million records sold, dozens of world tours, and recognition from institutions like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even if the band hasn't been officially inducted yet. Behind all that fame was a man quietly enduring pain and loneliness, something fans have only recently begun to understand. Believing things had changed. On October 26, 2022, Mick officially announced he was retiring from touring due to his health, but made it clear he was still a band member and wasn't giving up his share. Big outlets like Variety, Billboard, and Rolling Stone covered the story. Soon after, Mötley Crüe released a statement saying John 5 would replace Mars for the rest of the tour with Def Leppard. The release didn't mention Mars still being a member or how profits would be handled, making fans suspicious. Promotional materials quickly erased Mars's image, causing further controversy. Before joining, John 5 had been close with bandmates, especially Nikki Sixx, and sources like Ultimate Classic Rock suggested the change was pre-planned. Though no public fight happened, many believe Mars was blindsided and felt pushed out. Within Mötley Crüe, Mars always stayed independent, avoiding drama and business deals, keeping his reputation clean but also weakening his influence in decisions. Insiders say he was often left out of financial meetings, reducing his voting rights. Though he still owned a large share of the band, Mars went silent after retiring from touring. No social media posts, interviews, or public appearances. But by January 2023, reporters learned he'd quietly hired lawyers and was preparing legal action. Deadline later confirmed this. Mars didn't accept being removed without consent and was preparing to fight back. Meanwhile, Nikki Sixx posted vague tweets about team spirit and high energy without naming Mars. Tommy Lee posted rehearsal pics with John 5, and Vince Neil stayed silent. Fans saw this as disrespectful towards someone who had been with the band for 40 years. As the situation got wise, veteran artists like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister and Tracy Guns from LA Guns spoke out in support of Mick Mars, calling Mötley Crüe's treatment of a founding member a clear betrayal. Major forums in the metal community like Reddit, Metalcore, and Blabbermouth opened discussion threads analyzing the legal implications, clearly showing that the internal fight within the band could no longer be hidden. The withdrawal from touring had become the starting point of a far more complex series of events that were about to unfold. The lawsuit papers revealed on April 6, 2023, Mick Mars officially filed a lawsuit against Mötley Crüe in the Los Angeles County Superior Court, starting an unprecedented public legal battle in the band's history. According to details reported by Variety, Mars accused the remaining members of illegally and immorally working together to kick him out and of cutting his profit share on their own in an attempt to remove him from making decisions. At the center of the lawsuit was a fight over ownership shares. Mars said he still owned 25% of the group, and that reducing his share to 5% was done without any legitimate agreement within the band. His lawyer said that the other members, through their private lawyers and the band's CFO, had changed the money distribution terms by themselves, even though Mars never signed any paper saying he was quitting or giving up his rights. Importantly, the lawsuit revealed behind-the-scenes details that were never made public before. In a part quoted by Rolling Stone, Mars said he had been forced to prove he could still perform through personal tests. He described this as a form of humiliation and degradation, especially given his status as an original member. According to Mars, none of the other three members had ever been made to do similar things. On music forums and social media, many argued that Mars was being made a scapegoat in a group increasingly driven by money interests. Some industry figures, including veteran journalist Eddie Trunk, suggested that Mars had the most distinctive playing style and that continuing the band without him would weaken its core musical value. Loudwire published an article noting that Mars' claims aligned with a broader pattern of internal restructuring used by many major bands to maximize financial gain. Beyond financial and performance-related disputes, a key part of the lawsuit addressed brand ownership. Mars claimed he remained a co-owner of the Mötley Crüe name and had voting rights on major decisions. The band's continued use of the name without his approval was seen as a violation of long-standing partnership principles. Mars' legal team said they were considering a motion to stop the band from using the name unless a clear agreement was reached. The legal battle also began affecting the band's credibility with business partners. According to industry sources, several brands that had sponsored past tours reached out for clarification. International event organizers like Live Nation were said to be closely watching the lawsuit's developments, as it could affect future tour contracts. As of mid-2024, the case hadn't reached a final ruling, but it already caused lasting fallout. Regardless of the outcome, the lawsuit's revelations have damaged Mötley Crüe's public image. For Mick Mars, this isn't just a legal battle. It's a fight to defend his honor and personal legacy after more than 4 decades of contributing to American hard rock. While the band moves forward with its new lineup and avoids addressing the controversy, Mick Mars has taken a different path. He has chosen not to fight back with words, but instead launched an independent music project for the first time under his own name, marking a completely new chapter. The team behind the album included experienced musicians: Paul Taylor, a keyboard player known for Winger and Alice Cooper, Jacob Bunton on lead vocals, Chris Randall on bass, and Ray Luzier on drums from Korn. The presence of these established names showed that this wasn't a personal experiment, but a strategic release aimed at redefining Mick Mars' musical identity post-Mötley Crüe. The opening track, Loyal to the Lie, immediately caught attention with heavy guitar sounds, pounding rhythms, and an intensely angry tone. The song was viewed by critics as a direct response from Mars to the accusations made by his former band. In an interview with Guitar World, he said, "I don't need to write a statement. I just let the guitar do the talking." Most of the other tracks, including Killing Breed, Right Side of Wrong, and Ready to Roll, revolve around themes of betrayal, defiance, and standing up for yourself. Musically, The Other Side of Mars received good reviews from critics. Crüe magazine called it the most personal and honest album Mars has ever made. "I need the studio. That's where I truly live." Notably, Mars confirmed that is already working on a second album expected to be released by the end of 2025. The next project is described as more electronic in tone, experimenting with ambient and industrial rock. He revealed that is working with an emerging female artist in the alternative scene, though her name hasn't been disclosed. Mars' goal is to continue challenging himself and remain completely independent of any past legacy. In addition, the other side of Mars serves as a personal artistic statement. It's not just a music album but clear evidence that Mick Mars doesn't need the fame of Mötley Crüe to maintain his influence. While most artists of his generation choose retirement or reunion tours, Mars chose to step out of the band's shadow and assert his independent identity. He said, "If one day we play together again, it has to be for the music, not for a contract or a festival lineup." That comment was immediately quoted widely across media channels, especially given that Mötley Crüe continues to perform with a new lineup, without the man who helped shape the band's signature sound. Throughout his reflections, Mars focused on the personal lessons learned from the fallout. He revealed that he now spends most of his time at home in Nashville, doing physical therapy to maintain mobility and working in the studio. Although he no longer performs live, he continues to practice guitar daily and compose new music as a form of mental therapy. The current image of Mick Mars is that of an independent artist, rarely seen in public but deeply respected within the music community. At major rock festivals like Hellfest, France, and Aftershock, USA, many younger bands have openly credited him as an influence in guitar style and production philosophy. On platforms like YouTube and podcast channels dedicated to classic rock, segments regularly feature Mars, analyzing each album, each solo, and how he has preserved his artistic identity over decades. For Mick Mars' upcoming 75th birthday celebration expected in 2026, several veteran music journalists have proposed nominating him for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not just as a Mötley Crüe member but as a solo artist. According to an analysis by Music Business Worldwide, Mars' influence has grown noticeably since the lawsuit, reflecting a public shift toward valuing transparency, integrity, and long-term artistic dedication over superficial glamour. Mars himself rarely talks about awards or recognition. In a conversation with Metal Hammer at the end of 2024, when asked how it felt to have laid the truth bare, he responded simply, "I didn't speak to win. I spoke to stay true to myself." As of now, Mars remains silent on whether he plans to re-engage in any form of collaboration with Mötley Crüe. Legal teams on both sides are still negotiating, though no terms have been disclosed. Meanwhile, he remains firmly committed to his independent creative path, stating he will only release new information when I'm ready, mentally and artistically. Though no longer standing on brightly lit stages with the band, Mick Mars still holds his place as an irreplaceable figure in American classic rock. And at 73, he hasn't chosen to fade away. He's rewriting his final chapter through the sound of his guitar and the clarity of his words. What do you think about Mick Mars' revelations? Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts after this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content.